Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing fantastic. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having a great day. Do not forget to follow me on social media. There are links in the description below. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. The cryptocurrency market should actually be studied. It sounds fake or like a joke. No, I think there's some kind of weird phenomenon, and I don't know why it's so easy to actually get to. Do you remember, of course, prices were trending sideways and there were a monstrous amount of articles, you might have seen them as well, that were popping up. It was anywhere in the pendulum from Bitcoin's heading to $1 million, Bitcoin's going to $500,000, Bitcoin's going to $250,000, Bitcoin's going back down to $70,000. And then everything else was just like hyper negative around like altcoins and stuff like that. There were a number of analysts, whatever their names might be, who were talking about that they expected Ethereum to go to 1,800 and kind of stay there. They would be surprised if Ethereum got above $2,300 and it was just going to stay there. There was so many other things. I mean, whatever. You get the generalized point. That was the pendulum. It was either people who were hyper bullish or relatively negative. There were a lot of articles that were coming out where people were saying we wouldn't have any kind of altcoin season. Ethereum just wasn't going to move. Bitcoin was the only thing that mattered within this market. Every other coin should be shunned. I mean, we've had that loop before. But now we've kind of swung, completely in the opposite direction, where we're now getting calls again for not only if you've missed the last 2, 3, or 4 videos, for a very hefty altcoin season. People think that this is now going to be the craziest, the greatest, the most awesomest altcoin season that we've ever had. Ethereum's going to $10,000 in a couple of weeks. It's like I said, it sounds like a joke. All it took was some movement in price and everyone completely lost their minds. And this is, of course, one of the most popular news stories of the day. It says oh no, that's from the other thing. It's talking about this from some guy named Sean Adams, but this appeared first on another website. With Ethereum reclaiming major technical levels in a strong new narrative building, there is no new narrative. Ethereum's always been the same. It's had some upgrades and some updates. It's still the same basic coin. We're still waiting for 1 million transactions per second. We're still waiting for the other upgrades that they said they were going to have and build and execute. The most that we have now is that prices are going up and we have staking, and the public, the general public, is now realizing how popular Ethereum actually is. I know I've said the words, look up the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance at least 470 times over the course of this channel, and I assume only 3 of you have actually done it. When you realize the companies who are already backing Ethereum, all of this makes a lot of sense. What didn't make sense is why prices weren't moving, as we kept on hearing that less and less Ether and Bitcoin were on crypto exchanges. In case you missed that video, the amount of Bitcoin on exchanges hasn't been this low since 2018. Got it. The amount of Ether on exchanges hasn't been this low since 2015. So it's not a new strong narrative. It's just what the coin has always been. It's the most used blockchain on the planet for a reason. It says many investors are starting to ask, is ETH stepping into a much bigger role in the global financial system? If you missed a week ago, before we had all the hubbubaloo talking about the Stablecoin Act and all these other things, all these investors came out of really nowhere. These like rich millionaire billionaires were on the news and they were all like, well, you know what's really amazing is that Ethereum is probably the best coin in the market. Ethereum is doing this. And I was like, where were all of you a couple of months ago? The idea then became, well, as stable coins seem poised to take over the world, to be the next big thing, all these banks and companies and institutions, we have rumors that there's going to be a Google stablecoin, Amazon stablecoin, apparently, what's the other company? Uber is apparently working on one. You name it, across the board, all the big wigs. We also heard directly that Facebook once again is working on another stablecoin because they see everyone else doing it, so they're like, okay, we can do it now as well. The majority of these coins are and will be built on top of Ethereum. So therefore, everyone was like, Ethereum's going to be the backbone of the global financial system. And I was like, if you've been in crypto, if you looked at the enterprise, and if you looked at the Ethereum Foundation's partnerships and what they've been saying they've been doing, that was going to be completely evident. But all it took was Ethereum's price rising by 15, 20, 30% for everyone to be like, is this the new Bitcoin? What part of all of that had you missed over the course of the literal last decade? Someone by the name of Ryan Sean Adams, founder of Mythos Capital, is apparently one of the most vocal supporters of Ethereum's evolving identity. There is no evolving identity. It's what it's always been. The original idea of Ethereum was to be a world computer. That was back in 2014, 2015. By 2016, Ethereum and the whole shebang had actually begun to lose money. That's when we heard the story, so goes the legend. I believe it's Novogratz. He tells the story that he says one day he was hanging out with a friend and they were like, hey, do you want to go meet some kids who are doing something fun? He was like, sure. He said he walked into an office and he saw a whole bunch of scrawny people, he said scrawny, working on computers, and one of them was Vitalik Buterin. And Vitalik Buterin was like, look what I made. Isn't this awesome? And then he was like, how do I get some of these things? So he put forth apparently $1 million+. The rumor is that he was then given 1 million Ether. That's the rumor, because Ethereum back then was worth like 40, 50 cents. And then therefore that kind of began the light corporatization of Ethereum. The idea of a world computer doesn't really exist. By the time we got to 2017, 2018, the Ethereum Foundation had already formed and had registered across multiple countries and had begun in Switzerland. Then we had news that the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance it was, once again, Google it, please, for the love of God. You saw that there were 500 companies. It was Microsoft, it was JP Morgan Chase, it was Coinbase, it was all these people backing it. And I was like, this is clearly going to be a winner. Everyone was like, it's a scam, it's awful, it's terrible. And went from $1 to $8 to $500 to $1,200. There is no evolving identity. It simply is what it is. It's always been a platform since 2018 for people to build stuff on top of. The world computer idea kind of went out the window, and it was more of we will be the chain that every other chain uses. That was remember around the 2020, 2021, when Ethereum had excessively high transaction fees. That was because nearly every new project was being built on top of them. So then This is why we've seen this wave of them being like upgrade, update, upgrade, update, upgrade, 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 update. Because the chain does need to be about 1,000 times faster minimum. If we're talking about multiple countries and multiple this and so and all these stable coins will be on top of this chain, you need faster transactions. What's happening is that the general public and a lot of these other investors, they've been very one-track minded. Bitcoin, 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 Bitcoin. They hear eventually that something's happening with Ripple and banks and XRP. And then you start hearing these people going, well, we think XRP is also great for a portfolio. They then start hearing, well, this bank is using Ethereum. That company's using Ethereum. These 5 stable coins are built on top of Ethereum. They're doing trillions of dollars worth of transactions. It becomes, look how amazing Ethereum is. And this is just where I think we are. People within the cryptocurrency space, relatively, I'll even drag that back a bit, have known that Ethereum is going to succeed. But it gets quite muddied when you have the Cardanos, the Trons, the Solanas all claiming they can do what Ethereum is doing. So, yes. The thing now is that everyone is acting like, but I mean, we've also had this every other cycle. So I think this is why we are in like beginning of altcoin season. Every time that Ethereum remotely outperforms Bitcoin, we start getting calls for Ethereum being the number 1 coin. Ethereum taking over the market. Ethereum surpassing Bitcoin's market cap in some form or fashion. I do not think that's going to happen anytime soon, but Ethereum obviously is going to continue to be one of the largest coins that we've ever had. In a Twitter post, Ryan Sean Adams said, and I quote, "The ETH community has executed," he calls it the blue money gospel. I don't know what's happening. "Marvelously over the past 2 months. Adams' blue money concept recasts Ethereum not just as infrastructure for decentralized apps, but as a yield-generating, store-of-value asset backed by real on-chain economy." Yes, that's what Ether has been since we got staking. Since you were able to stake your Ether, we've known that it's been yield-generating. We know that it is like literally 1,000+ coins are built on top of Ethereum. It is the world's most used blockchain. It just feels like it feels like running a bath and then someone gets into it and they go, "Oh my gosh, this is wet." Like that kind of thing. We keep having these revelation articles within the crypto space and it's like these people, are you brand new? Like I'm not being mean, but it's like, remember all those billionaires, over the last 5 years, they were all in the news on TV. Yeah, you know, we didn't care for Bitcoin, but it's kind of amazing now. One of them, oh gosh, what was that guy? One of them recently said about Bitcoin, some billionaire, he was like, it's the most sound money on the planet. I wish I had bought years ago. And I was like, dude, you're a billionaire. I was like, Bitcoin's roughly around 100,000. I feel like you can easily throw 23 million into it. But his thing on TV was like, oh, this brand new thing that just came out yesterday. And I'm like, if we knew about Bitcoin, surely you did too. At some point, you definitely heard about this thing. It says, while Bitcoin is seen as digital gold and oil, what? Remains a classic store of value. Okay. ETH offers something more. Security and productivity. Well, the problem is that Bitcoin's blockchain is more secure than Ether. And as I've stated a gajillion times and had people get really angry with me and the I almost said angry with me in the blockchain. Angry with me in the comment section. All these coins and chains can do the exact same thing. I said that years ago and people were like, you're lying. Nothing can do what XRP's doing. Do you know what Cardano's doing? No other. And I'm like, well, now that you all know, they can all have upgrades. They can all be updated. They can all have ICOs on them. They can all have NFTs. You can name them whatever you want on Bitcoin. It's still the exact same thing. There's now rumors and proposals being thrown around once again for Bitcoin's main layer to have more transactions per second and to also like hyper intensify the integration with the Lightning Network. None of these things are alone in what they can do. It's just a matter of what the team prioritizes as to what they want to actually have go to market, if you will. Apparently, he has an idea. He says Ethereum has the potential to become a global reserve asset, and that's now catching the attention of both retail and institutional investors. Is this a joke? Please, pull me out of the matrix if this is all some kind of one big. People are now catching on. People didn't realize before. How many? Listen, if I realized this 2 years ago, everyone else on the planet should have as well. I'm not the smartest cookie in the box. Let's be completely honest here. We're talking about people are now realizing that Ethereum could be like a long-term asset or like a reserve of some sort. If blockchain is going to make it, and this is the most used blockchain, what else could it? Oh, geez Louise. It says the ETH community has executed Blue Money Gospel marvelously over the past 2 months. So, cool. I'm glad that everyone's finally getting there. You know, maybe every train just isn't as fast as I thought they were going to be, but I don't know. It's always just price movements. So by the time we do get to a $10, $12, $14,000 ether, people, you know, we knew from the beginning, and it's like, did you really know? People only know when prices are. Of course, Ethereum was going to do what? It's the what? Like, what's going on? You're gonna see a pattern because this for some reason has caught the minds and attention of people all over the place. Also in the news, for those of you not looking at the screen, BlackRock's iShares Ethereum Trust, called ETHA, just posted its biggest day ever, pulling in $489 million US. Its largest inflow since launching in July. I believe they mean last July, most definitely 2024. That came with a massive $1.8 billion in trading volume, signaling a major surge in institutional interest. What I think has been okay. So you know how like I'm part of the group of people who like understand supply and demand? If we've been hearing since the beginning of this year that like the ether on OTC markets is drying up because all the companies and institutions are also buying it. We also have, I think, I believe the number's 3 Ethereum reserve companies now. Logic tells me, and therefore should tell us, if we got 3 months ago to 2015 levels when the coin literally came out, I assume it's getting bone dry at this point, which then tells me if these people want to continue accumulating, they're going to have to buy spot. And I just think that we're seeing like more people just buying, like you have no choice. The OTC markets are drying up and people who would be selling have no plan on selling, because why would you sell? Because the more ether you have, the more ether you can create. There is no other way to create ether other than owning it. So I think the frenzy is just beginning because there's, you know, the supply's already low. Ether's already deflationary. And with all this stuff we have going on with all these bills and the so-and-so and the stable coin and the grandma, of course, this was bound to happen. So as we see the price rising and as we see like the interest for the Ethereum ETFs has always been there. We've been going over that for a year. One day there was like a $4 million outflow, but on that same day, the money that went into it was $12 million. It's constantly the same loop. People just report if there's any kind of an outflow. No, these companies aren't stupid. It's BlackRock. Like, do you understand what it means for these companies to be in this space? They want all of it. They're buying it for themselves. Why do you think we have this whole thing between them talking to the SEC to try and get staking directly through the actual ETFs? So yes, it says this excitement wasn't limited to BlackRock. Across all US Ethereum ETFs, that's something you have to remember. There are other Ethereum and Bitcoin ETFs around the world who are pulling in millions of dollars daily of these coins. I told you, if you have an ETF, one in a country who's doing 30 million per day, so not the super shiny 489 million, 33 million in a day by the end of the month. How much money is that? That's a third. That's a third of $1 billion. Now imagine they've been doing that since before all of this happened. Money knows all these things already. But heaven forbid, I mean, should prices rise within the cryptocurrency space? Everyone's like, oh my Lord, this is amazing. I've never seen. Why do you think we keep getting news the supply is dropping? There's not a lot left. Why do you I have to keep reiterating this over and over? Because the supply keeps dropping and there's not a lot left. That's the BlackRock is buying a tremendous amount of Ether. That's also just one day. One day. Imagine what's going to happen over the course of the rest of this month. What? I can't even begin to imagine. It's almost like they know something. Know something that we don't know about. Okie dokie. Let's move on. Also, I just assume they're tired because I'm tired for them. I've never understood in my life why things take so long. It's not that I expect everything to be rushed, but I think in many cases, you know how like it took 12, 13 years for the US to have their first Bitcoin ETF? It shouldn't have taken that long. I want to say like a good 6 months. It's kind of like paperwork for stuff. I'm sure we've all been there. You have to file paperwork or you have to do something, and it just takes so long to hear back from an office, a company, whatever the case might be. And you go, well, there's only so many workers. Well, there's also a lot of people who are unemployed. Why not hire those people to speed up the process across the entire, gosh darn thing? So for this as well, I assume they're just kind of like exhausted with having to like deal with this. But alas, here we are. Grayscale has announced they are preparing to take legal action against the SEC after the regulator has delayed the launch of their multi-token ETF on the New York Stock Exchange, ARCA. Grayscale says they're citing investor harm. That's usually, excuse my French, a load of the letter B and then also the letter S. Investors can get this stuff in other places. People keep pretending in these things that the only place to buy crypto is through their ETF. No, we have multiple other crypto exchanges. Though the problem I would say, as opposed to investor harm, is like corruption. Why is this taking so long? Why is it that Grayscale, for those of you who weren't here, Grayscale had to sue the US SEC 2 years ago, and that's how we got our first Bitcoin ETF. It's because they kept on filing the paperwork. Everything was correct because, Grayscale as a company isn't sitting in a chair going, I'm going to click A. I think the letter C. No, they have a team of lawyers who are filing this paperwork on their behalf. then when you file something 7 times that you know is correct and you get rejected every single time, you're like, hey, something's amiss here. They sued the SEC. They got the Bitcoin ETF. We heard it's been about a month or so. Grayscale got the approval for their Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, and I want to say the last one was Cardano. I want to say Cardano ETF. It was like a bucket ETF. And since then, apparently the SEC keeps delaying it. Like they won't let it launch. And none of this makes any sense. Why should they have to wait? Why does anyone have to wait for anything for so long? Especially as a regulator. You've regulated. Just let it go through. The Digital Large Cap Fund. Oh, yeah. Okay, I was right. Which includes Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, ZERP, and ADA, has been approved but remains on hold due to the SEC's extended review process. I'm sorry. How do you approve something but you have to keep reviewing it? How do I listen. Imagine you hire a contractor to build a house, a home, a building. He's approved the building. He gave it a thumbs up. He looked at it, gave a little thumbs up, and was like, everything here is cool. But I gotta review it. I gotta see what materials you used. Is that wood? Why am I smelling concrete? Didn't you approve all of this? I did, but I need to review. Yes, Grayscale apparently is challenging the SEC's delay on their multi-token ETF launch, highlighting investor harm and regulatory hurdles amid growing demand for crypto investment products. There was also something floating around. Whenever this gets resolved, there will probably be a parade of some sort. I saw it. Gosh, what was it? It was something about the Ripple SEC case still not being done because Ripple paid in cash. And I think the number went down from what it was, and the payment is still being processed. Or I sat there and I was like, what are you talking about? So apparently that's also still not at its final completion. Why does everything take so long? No, I mean it honestly. Think of how much further ahead we could be as a society, not just with crypto, if things like worked properly. Did I ever? I must have because I remember this must have been a decade ago. There was a news story where there was like this really hilly area. Like imagine like that San Francisco loopy hill, like that kind of thing. Something similar, but on a smaller scale. And it was in like a retirement community. It was like relatively older people in this area. None of them could go down that path. It was too sideways. It was too hilly, and people just literally, they couldn't do it. Many people were falling as they were going. This is a true story. Many people were going down it. At some point, there was a carpenter in the area because people had been constantly filing with the city, whatever it was, to try and get like steps put in. And the government was like, yeah, we're talking to contractors. And after 5 years, a local person who was a carpenter was like, okay, I can do it myself. I think it took him a week. He made like a gigantic 50-step thing going down like vertical down the actual hill. And all the with like handles and everything. It looked great. People took photos and videos of it. 2 days later, it was destroyed by the city. Because the city said, we didn't hire you. You weren't on contract, and we weren't able to actually see how safe this was. This guy was a well-known carpenter in the area, always building stuff. It took the city another couple of years to finally hire a contractor who built something, and it cost the city, I think, $500,000 just to build something that people walked on and they started falling on because it was faulty. Why? Why does everything take so? And you can't even say you can't even say funding, because I assume that man, if the city had hired him and said, we'll give you $10,000, he did it out of the kindness of his heart for free. Have you ever seen if you have it, you're going to be terrified. Watch a documentary on U.S. infrastructure. There's tons of them on YouTube. Watch them. Like a documentary where they're actually going around and like looking at like the piping and like looking at bridges. These people, they draw, I'm not joking, they draw with marker around like rusted through holes to see if the hole grows next year. And if it does, then they go, okay, well, we have to find a piece of metal to patch it up. What are you talking about patch it? Just do it now. Why is everything so slow? Like the whole world just seems to constantly be like this slow moving boulder in every direction. I understand. And once again, I'm not talking about crypto specifically. I'm not talking about Bitcoin dismantling the US dollar happening overnight. But I mean, like, as far as like even people in government learning about it. Everyone's so scared of stuff. Learn about why this currency is so popular. Rich people. You didn't just learn about Bitcoin. It's just now you're seeing that like it has purpose for your portfolio. You didn't check before. Like it's very frustrating. We feel so far behind on everything, on every single thing. I think it's just a mixture of greed and stupidity. Anywho, yeah, so Grayscale is, I hope they don't have to take legal action. It's nonsense. This new SEC is supposed to be so pro-crypto. I told you months ago, my skepticism is still there. Everyone's talking about this SEC is pro-crypto and they're going to usher in a new, just do it. Just do it. Like, why are we still having conversations? Why are we still having articles with Hester Pierce being like, we're working on this so-and-so? I don't care. Just do it. Just get it done. No, literally just push it through. Take 6 months, review it. Make sure that it's legal, that it's securitized, that it's okay for U.S. investors, and that no one's getting duped. Allow it to go through. Why does everything take so long? Jeez Louise, it's frustrating. Well, I hope you all enjoyed. Hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever the heck you might be. I do hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting the channel. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.